The night she disappeared was supposed to be just another ordinary Saturday. Earlier that afternoon, my wife, Amelia, casually mentioned she'd be staying over at her friend Clara's place. "Girls' night," she said with a smile. "Movies, wine, just us catching up." I nodded, pretending not to notice how her gaze briefly darted away from mine. I didn't confront her, just waited quietly for her to leave. But as she stepped out the door, a strange, uneasy feeling twisted in my chest. I didn't know why, not exactly. Maybe it was the way her phone was already on Do Not Disturb before her tires even hit the street. Maybe it was how she didn't kiss me goodbye. Just a half-hearted, "see you tomorrow," over her shoulder. By midnight, her phone had gone completely dark, switched off, and Amelia never turned off her phone. Not even once. Not during storms. Not when she traveled out of state to see her sister. Even on that ski trip years ago when she lost her phone in a snowbank, she borrowed a stranger's cell to call me from the lodge. But tonight, no calls, no texts, no notifications, just a black void of silence. I stayed on the couch, still fully dressed, shoes on, eyes glued to the ceiling fan slowly circling above me. My phone kept lighting up every few minutes as I checked again and again. I stopped texting after the third message failed to send. All of them bounced back. So I waited, but the waiting, that wasn't the hardest part. The worst was what I eventually did. Around 3 a.m., I stood quietly, walked over to the entryway drawer and pulled it open. Shoved aside a mess of receipts, tangled cords, and old keys until I found it, my old phone, the one I never threw away. The one she thought was long gone. I powered it on. The screen came to life, familiar yet eerie. Connected to the Wi-Fi. Logged into her Apple ID. The same account I'd helped set up when we got married. Back then, she said she didn't understand tech and wanted me to handle it. She'd never changed the password. It was still her childhood dog's name. I opened Find My iPhone. Nothing. Location sharing had been turned off. Blocked manually. This wasn't a lost signal or dead battery. This wasn't a mistake. She chose to disappear. I sat there in the dim blue light of the screen, heart racing, staring into nothing. By the time I heard her keys at the front door, daylight was already pushing through curtains. It was 9:38 a.m. She walked in like everything was normal. Her hair was pulled into a loose braid, oversized sunglasses still on despite being inside. She held a fancy cafe cup in her hand, like a trophy from a night well spent. Without even glancing at me, she made her way to the fridge and opened it casually. "Why are you still up?" she asked lightly, voice airy and unconcerned. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I was too focused on the faint reddish smear near the hem of her sweatshirt. Lipstick, maybe, but not a color I'd ever seen her wear. Her phone, now miraculously back on, was in her hand. "I called you." I finally croaked out, my throat dry and tight. She didn't look up, just sipped her coffee and shrugged. "Oh, yeah," she said dismissively. "Forgot my charger. Clara didn't have one that fit. It was a lie, a lazy one. She wasn't even trying to sell it." She spoke like she knew I wouldn't challenge her. Then she laughed, soft, breathless, dismissive, and walked past me, brushing her hand through my hair like I was some nervous child. "You worry too much, Noah," she said sweetly. "I'm fine. Go get some rest." I stared at her, feeling my pride unravel one thread at a time. "Where were you?" I asked, my voice low, steady, hollow. She stopped, only for a beat. Then she turned, a smirk tugging at one side of her mouth. Cold, calculated. "I told you," she said slowly, drawing out each word like she was explaining something to a fool. "Clara's. Where else? You think I was off cheating or something?" She laughed, a sharp, mean laugh. "God, you're so paranoid." That smile, arrogant and mocking, sent a cold ripple down my spine. She wasn't trying to cover the lie. She wanted me to see it. I stood up. She barely reacted. "You weren't at Clara's," I said flatly. She rolled her eyes so dramatically it was almost laughable. "Oh, here we go. What now? Gonna stalk my phone? Spy on me like some psycho?" But I already had. Clara's Instagram story was still live. A video from midnight. Clara was alone, eating ice cream. Her cat batted at a toy on the floor in the background. No one else in sight. No Amelia. I didn't say a word. Just stared. And that silence, it rattled her. She turned, grabbed her purse, and stormed toward the bedroom. Then her phone buzzed. It was still sitting on the counter. 3 new messages, all from someone saved as Alex Vecker. We didn't know anyone named Alex. And we definitely didn't have a pet that needed a vet. I picked up the phone without thinking. "Don't touch my phone," she snapped, her tone cutting to the air like a knife. I looked straight at her. "Are you sure you want to keep going like this?" She sneered, arms folded, eyes glinting with disdain. "Go ahead, Noah," she spat. "Open it. Let's see just how insane you're ready to look." I didn't need to open her phone. I already knew the truth. Instead, I walked to the kitchen calmly and picked up the envelope I'd received the day before. Official documents, signed and notarized. Without a word, I placed the divorce papers next to her untouched latte. Her skin went pale. Her arms stayed defensively crossed. But I saw the shift. Her confident mask started to crack. "You're being ridiculous," she muttered, her eyes flicking between me and the documents. "Am I?" My voice was soft but steady. She let out a bitter, humorless chuckle. "Really? You're ending our marriage over a phone that died? Because I forgot a charger?" I didn't answer. Just silence. And like always, that silence pulled her in, forced her to fill the space. "I wasn't cheating," she whispered, voice trembling. Not from guilt, but from sheer performance. Exhaustion crafted over time. "You're paranoid, Noah. You've always been like this." There was the same script, the gaslighting, the deflection. She'd used it before. Every time I inched close to the truth, I didn't blink. "You want to talk about paranoia?" I said quietly. "Let's talk about the vet. Alex Vet Care." She froze, just for a moment. Then she recovered too quickly. "That's Clara's ex," she said, her tone too controlled, too smooth. "He's a veterinarian. Clara's thinking about getting a dog. She used my number on the adoption paperwork." It sounded rehearsed, thin, almost laughably so. "Prove it," I said simply. "No," she replied, folding her arms even tighter. "Why not?" Her voice exploded, sharp and loud, like a whip crack. "Because I don't owe you anything," she barked. "You've completely lost your mind." She wasn't scared. This kind of rage, this chaos, was her safe space. It was where she felt in control. Blame, shout, deflect. But I was done being dragged into it. "You think I filed for divorce over one night?" I asked, my voice low and even. "It wasn't just last night. It was the lies. The scent of cologne that isn't mine on your clothes. The smug smiles you wore while feeding me half-truths." She didn't deny a thing. She just stared, then turned and slammed the bedroom door. I didn't follow. Hours passed. Around 3 p.m., she emerged, showered, towel wrapped around her hair, dressed like she was heading out to brunch instead of leaving a broken marriage. Her voice was composed, too casual. "So what now?" she asked while buckling her watch. "You want me to beg?" I said nothing. "You're acting like some martyr," she muttered, glaring at her reflection in the microwave door. "You've been emotionally gone for months, Noah. You left before I ever did." And just like that, everything clicked. This wasn't a slip-up. Not a single lapse in judgment. This was rot. Decay. Years in the making. "You didn't leave," I said quietly. "You just started living a life without me in it." She smiled again, that same smug, hollow curve of the lips. "Maybe that life didn't feel like being watched 24/7, she said, voice laced with sarcasm. "Maybe it felt like freedom." She thought she was clever. "You know what hurts the most?" I asked gently. She tilted her head, feigning interest. "It's not the lies," I said. "It's how lazy you got with them. Like you assumed I'd be too dumb or too in love to notice." She reached for her keys. "I need some air," she muttered. I didn't stop her. As her hand touched the doorknob, I spoke once more. "Don't come back tonight." She hesitated, just for a second, then walked out, I waited until her car disappeared down the block. Then I went to her laptop, still logged in. No password. I opened her iMessages. Trash folder loaded. Deleted conversations. Dozens of them. One name showed up over and over. Alex. I clicked. Message after message flooded the screen. Last night was wild. I can still smell you on me. 3 hours with you beats 6 years with him. I didn't feel angry. Just clear. I printed every message. Every thread. Every lie hidden behind her girls' nights. Labeled everything. Evidence. That night, she returned humming under her breath like it was any other evening. I slid the folder across the table. She opened it. As she flipped through the pages, her expression changed, but she didn't cry, didn't lash out. She just smiled. Cold. So this is what it's about, she said, her voice like ice. This is the truth, I answered. She let out a dry laugh. You went through my stuff. You lost your right to privacy the moment you gave up honesty. Her tone dropped, almost to a whisper. You really think this makes you the good guy? I didn't say a word. She folded her arms and stared me down. So what now? She asked. You want me to go? I nodded. Without another word, she walked to the bedroom, packed a small bag, humming softly as she folded her clothes like she was heading off for a weekend getaway. Before stepping out the door, she turned around. I never loved him, she said flatly. I didn't react. A small smirk crossed her face. I didn't have to, she added, her voice thick with venom. He wanted me. You wanted a perfect little wife. I stepped forward. He wanted the version of you that you pretended to be, I said. She opened her mouth to respond, but stopped herself. Instead, she offered me one final, chilling smile. I'll text when I want to come pick up the rest of my things. I didn't reply. She left, and for the first time in years, the house wasn't hollow. It wasn't empty. It was peaceful. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the space where she used to sleep, at the dent in the pillow her head used to leave. That was the grief, not the loss of her, but the loss of what I thought we had, the illusion. But I wasn't waiting anymore. I was done.